international guest hosting in beautiful LA. And of course, we're talking about merchandising.
And much more on the anti-gravity room.
At the Comic Kid in the San Fernando Valley, and as you can see, there's a whole line of products to go along with your favorite comic or favorite movie. Some of it's great, some of it's not so hot. It's up to you to decide if it's worth your hard-earned cash. Most of this stuff debuts every year at the New York Toy Fair, and Phil and Nick were there to check it out.
Spidey, as you know, is a #1 show, still #1, X-Men #2, so it tells you Marvel is power.
Now, what do you guys do at Toy Biz to enhance the collectability of these figures?
Well, the trick is very simple. Keep it fresh. Every 4 or 5 months there's something new. And what you saw 5 months ago, odds are you cannot get, at least not for the retail price you paid before.
Yeah, I know. Shopping at the Walmart. Are you particularly excited about this line? Is there a certain...
Oh, yeah. This is fantastic. Look at it. I mean, it's incredible. If you don't know what it is, you're going to start looking and reading, try and figure out what it is. It appeals to all of us, from a young child to an old guy like me who is into Marvel and collect Marvel. So if we present it properly, the kids fall in love, and the parents are looking at it and saying, wow, hey, the Hulk is back, and all this nice and warm and fuzzy feeling that we had growing up into the Marvel Universe come back, because our universe is interesting, is story-driven, character-driven.
Now, how big a job is it for you to push these lines out, to let us know about them? I mean, what do you do?
We do very good advertising. There is a younger generation that is coming into Marvel, that is starting to understand our universes. Today you talk to a 6-year-old, it's amazing. They can explain to you what are mutants, explain to you what is a philosophy, what is Professor X versus Magneto.
I've been waiting for Age of the Apocalypse for the longest time.
Age of Apocalypse was such a huge phenomenon that we now can absolutely sub-segment our universe. You and I know how fast these things will go.
Yes, of course.
The key for this universe to do what we are doing is its possibility and detail. Again, detail, this is the key. Look at these mutations. I mean, this is incredible. But there is an axiom in the business that says boys will be boys, girls will be girls. So for girls, we sell dolls. For boys, we'll sell action figures. It's changing, because what we are doing for girls in our universe, we have strong women. We are getting phone calls. We want more girls, more girls.
What's in the future for Toy Biz?
I think you're going to see a really, really interesting rendition of Silver Surfer.
And we'll go back to the toy fair a little bit later, but first in the comic book field. It's up to these guys at merchandising departments to decide what goodies to make.
In 1923, Hasbro started out as a textile manufacturer, and then late in the 30s, they moved into toy manufacturing. And in doing that, they become one of the largest manufacturers in the world.
Hasbro is divided into 3 main categories. We have Kenner, Play School, and Milton Bradley and Parker Brothers. Kenner represents boys and girls toys, and of course, Play School are well-known Play School products for preschoolers. And did it again. And our Milton Bradley and Parker Brothers, of course, are puzzles and games. Most of the licensing agreements can be found in both Kenner and activities.
And just to let you know, licensing is actually... Licensing is the legal right to use a name, such as Batman or Superman, so that nobody can just walk in off the street and use those names. The licensing can start from comic books, such as Superman, off the comic book in the 40s. Fleischer started his comic book, and that was, it's now moving into figures that we released late last year. And also we have Batman Legends. Yes!
Yeah, but it works the other way, too. G.I. Joe was introduced in the 1960s. 1980s, it made its way as a comic book. I think our best sellers have definitely been Batman.
Which was #1 in Canada.
Yep. Jurassic Park, and of course Ghostbusters, everyone remembers.
And of course we can't forget Star Wars, which originally sold $1 billion in retail sales. Yes. Oh, come on.
May the force be with you.
The difference between today's action figures and figures from years ago is these are a lot more sculpted with a lot more design, and of course, like G.I. Joe and Superman, a lot more buff.
Just like you, Kev.
Oh, gee. So she thinks I'm not buffed, eh? Oh.
One of the biggest splashes in the action figure market lately is the line of toys based on Image Comics. Todd McFarlane is the man behind these figures, which could definitely beat the stuffing out of the Power Rangers.
Spawn is America's #1 comic book thanks to you. So I started this company to make the toys that you asked for.
Spawn, Violator.
I hear the competition's flying around. They could be any place.
Check it, I'm with Todd McFarlane in the hockey jersey.
Hey, how's it going?
Great Canadian sport.
You bet.
When you started Spawn, did you think it would become this successful?
My goals really are just to survive and be able to do it. You know, people said I couldn't make my own comic, and they said I couldn't make my own toys, and they said I couldn't, you know, cut my own deals in Hollywood and write my own contracts and stuff like that. So to me, the victories aren't so much how many units you sell or how big it gets, but that you're still alive to just do it.
How did you start McFarlane Toys?
I started making phone calls saying I'm starting a toy company, and we had our first meeting 3 weeks later. 2 months after that, we were at our very first toy fair, and a couple months after that, we had toys on the shelves at every single major, you know, store across the country.
They're cool, awesome.
Tremor, Overkill, Medieval Spawn,
And they come with comics.
Nice toys, kids.
Now, how would you compare running the comic end of things to the toy end of things?
You get your orders, you print it, you do the book, you're done, everybody's happy. This business here, see, the one thing about making decisions when you're mad is you don't really think about it. So, like, I got mad, I'm starting a toy company, and then afterwards, I started dealing with factories overseas, importing and exporting. I got to deal with safety standards, I got to deal with insurance, I got to deal with all the buyers, I got to deal with the politics. I'm like, I just want to make toys. And, you know, to me, I just think you make good-looking toys. Forget that there's comic books, forget there's video games or movies coming on. I just think you make good-looking toys, because this is the toy business, kids will buy them.
The thing is, you've almost single-handedly, like, brought the action figure market to a certain level. What do you think of that? I mean, you're getting awards, and they are the best-looking figs out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, because I'm small and my bottom line is, you know, is a lot shorter than other people, I can afford to put more money into the figures.
Well, Todd, man, I think you are doing a lot more than you think you're doing, man. Keep it up, brother.
Sound like my mom. Thanks.
It's great making the toys that you want. So great, I made some for myself.
Spawn from Todd Toys. We're out to blast the competition.
So that brings to mind the question, which comics do you think should be figurified?
Well, I think that an action figure should be made out of any comic book that's accomplished at least 35 issues. So if they've made it that far, then they probably deserve to have an action figure made of that comic book.
The perfect action figure to make? Newt Gingrich with optional family values. Oh, you mean he's not a cartoon character?
After this, Phil checks out some video games, we check out comic news and have a look at the molds for one of the new anti-gravity room action figures, Extreme Phil.
All right, I am at Alternate Gravity in busy downtown Toronto, Comics and Games. And I'm going to be going back way to the beginning of the Sony PlayStation's roots and looking at a fighting game called Battle Arena Toshinden. It's a 3D fighting game, much like Virtua Fighter and Virtua Fighter 2. I'll go through the good points of this game. Great graphics. Another interesting concept in this game is that it's not only head-on fighting, but you can go sideways and come in and kind of fight the player from behind. What I didn't like about this game is, first off, I don't like fighting games with weapons. Secondly, there's a control configure option that you can put in the special moves right on the front buttons here, which makes it totally boring. And thirdly, I didn't feel like there were enough characters. There are a lot of characters, but it just didn't seem like they had a good variety. Compare it to Tekken, compare it to Virtua Fighter 2, and even to like Killer Instinct and Mortal Kombat 3, it just didn't do much for me. We'll have to wait for Battle Arena Toshinden 2. Hopefully that'll be much better. Battle Arena Toshinden, one of the first fighting games for Sony PlayStation, 2 Gs out of 5.